I'm Jan Vormann. I'm a visual artist. I do projects in galleries, I do projects in public space, I do projects wherever I please and with the material that I like to use. So it could be soap bubbles, it could be playing dice, it could be wood, metal, stone, it could also be plastic construction bricks.
And it's the plastic construction bricks or the Lego that we're seeing behind us, that's what you've been doing really as part of the New Art Festival in Aberdeen.
Exactly. I've been invited by New Art to come to Aberdeen to repair this beautiful wall with a lot of history. The walls that I choose or that are chosen with me in collaboration, they always have a certain history. Some history is more personal, some history is more public. So in this case, it is a quite tragic history that I invite everybody to research. And what I like to do is to contrast the material inside these walls, to have it multicolored like this, and then to invite through this intervention people either to participate, to be kind of intrigued by the supporting wall.
So you mentioned it's got an intriguing history. Actually, looking at it, you can see there's layers and layers of history in this particular wall.
Right.
And we're in an environment in the green in Aberdeen where it's vibrant. There's things happening all around us now, but this wall seems to be standing alone. It's a little bit derelict.
Yes,
do you know much about the wall?
It's one of the oldest walls in Aberdeen. The history behind it, it can be researched. It's been a little bit forgotten. So why we chose this wall is also because of this history, but also because the granite is so durable that there are not so many spaces actually to find. Also, another reason is to try to push it a little bit to some extremes where it's like a bigger patch, just like maybe in a muralist approach also.
So tell me about the method of doing it.
Yes.
Because you've got so many, it looks so intricate what you've got in front of you there. I mean, how do you go about creating that?
It's I start out with the material. The material is donated, mostly it's second-hand. So in this case, it's 100% second-hand. In most of the locations, I use second-hand Legos to, let's say, 80 to 90%. There are some bricks that I would like to order to make it a little bit more organic, to just like a little bit the touch on top. But most of the bricks are not produced specifically for this project, so I really appreciate to have second-hand bricks. What I do is I stand at the wall. I try to look either for an interesting wall or a place that I like to hang out. So a place where sitting in the sun for a couple of hours and leaving this little mark, getting to know the neighborhood, getting to know the people who pass by. For a lot of people, the public space is a transit space, so it's not really something where they would hang out, and it differs on the different cultures and obviously on the different weather and climate zones. What I like is, I then sit down and I start to fill in the holes with, the correct bricks. So I would have organized my bricks also beforehand to be able to, more rapidly grab it and not to be able to have to dig inside the bags too long. So there is this whole preparation before. Later, I sit down. I take each brick and I try to fit the patch exactly on the hole that it's supposed to.
How did you come? What was the thought process behind doing this in the first place? What was that? What was the genesis of this?
At the beginning, it was more or less a comment on architecture of a specific Italian village, where there are the walls of the Roman, still like Roman Empire walls. Then since it's not so much about the aesthetics, how it looks, and also the charm is to have this kind of multi-layered walls. So the next step was to replace some broken parts with contemporary material. So it was like the clinker bricks and then the aerated concrete and so on and so on. At some point when we were invited, then I was thinking, okay, now what would be now a emblematic material? And in a way, it's the construction bricks, like this plastic. So plastic is kind of where we are right now. So are we going to move out of this? Are we going to stay in it? Nobody knows. Plastic has many faces, so I'm saying plastic, but obviously it's just the artificial material that has many faces now and forms. But yeah, this is the idea, to give some color to the place in the terms of, you know, graffiti. Just maybe even I was here. But ultimately it started as a reference to architecture, to that architecture style. Later it went to different cities where walls have different meanings and buildings are constructed in a different way. And then also it took on different forms. Like for example, when we went to Tel Aviv, the walls in Tel Aviv are way different. Or when we went to Berlin, we suddenly found ourselves on wall that were like, you know, scarred by the war, by bullet guns. And I'm saying we because that was also the point where people started to participate more. They were passing by. Bocchignano, the first village, is a small village. There were not so many passers-by, but then in Berlin, suddenly a lot of people participated. Or in Platform 21 in Amsterdam, it was an organized workshop by the Architecture Institute. So it took on this layer of, you know, participatory art project also. So we would walk around in the city to find sites together. So the walls were changing, the participants were changing. At some point I set up also a website as a platform where people who wanted to participate by themselves without me leading them around could just send in pictures or now even upload their own pictures.
And do you get that? Do you get a lot of people sort of taking this initiative and doing it themselves?
Yes, indeed. I get a lot of images. This is why I also try to, you know, get the website done for people to upload their own images. The website is dispatchwork.info. You can upload your own images because I think about 1 or 2 a month would be added to the site.
And what about your background as an artist, as a creator then? Can you tell me something a bit more outside of this particular project?
Absolutely, with pleasure. I'm a visual artist. I do, as I said, I like to work with any material that is like interesting to me, which has some inherent quality that I want to either transform or bring out. So it might be a soap bubble, for example. It might be a playing dice, which are all elements of high symbolic value. If you think about it a little bit, the soap bubble is about, you know, ephemeral, the fragility of life. That's in art historical terms. And the playing dice, which is, you know, also referred by Caesar already, you know, as a thing. What connects all these objects that I just mentioned is that they have all been passed through the hands of many people worldwide. So everybody had played maybe with soap bubbles, or everybody has already held a dice and rolled it, or a Lego brick in that matter, or any plastic construction brick. So what I like is that it's a very approachable. Those are very approachable materials, and that gives the way for entering into a certain, you know, discourse. It could be about the decay of our cities. It could be about the fragility of life. It could be about you know, time passing. So these are materials that I like, and I call them materials, even though maybe other person would call it object or just simple, you know, transformed object. I also like to, you know, work with classic materials. I like to work with wood, metal, stone. These are all quite interesting topics, interesting materials. However, the problem with this is that there are huge masters that specialize, for example, in marble, in stone. So for me, I kind of lose the interest to you know, go down this route because, yeah. However, I have done this project now for a couple of years. I always still try to innovate my project. I always try to do something that hasn't been done before. I think this is kind of an artistic code of artists, that they either refer to an artist or they go a new route all along.
And how do the public react to your work? Something like this. How have the public
the public reacts pretty nicely. They in Aberdeen I have a lot of positive reactions, but all over the world generally I have a lot of positive reactions. There are some negative reactions, however. For example, the saying, okay, plastic, it's not so healthy in our environment. This is in public space. There is the plastic. So to these people, I would love to. To the first group of people, I would love to say thank you very much. I'm so happy that you enjoyed this. This is a big part of why I think art should be done, not only to please the public, but in that matter, I totally love it. In other works, I would love that the people are disgusted maybe by it, or that they are confronted with a reality they don't want to be confronted with. But to the second group of people, specifically to this project, I would like to say that, as I mentioned before, the Lego bricks are all second-hand, so I try to really not have any more plastic produced. And the same is with, you know, they never turn into waste. Now this one, for example, is pretty high up, and I think it will stay there for quite some time because it's nicely fixed inside. It's set pretty nicely, but a lot of times I make a lot of smaller installations in cities, so they are, let's say, this big, and they will be nested somewhere in a place where it's actually maybe reachable, because I don't want to carry a ladder with me at all times. So the idea is that people walk across their normal paths. They will walk along a road that they always walk, and suddenly they find this normally it was a broken piece of the wall, and then suddenly they find this installation, and the fifth, the sixth, the seventh will maybe touch it, and then it will move a little bit, and at some point maybe it will fall out, and the next person will just see a pile of Lego there, possibly, and then, you know, he will just pick it up and take it home. I have on the website all the locations are marked, so if you feel like it, you can go to the nearest location to you. You can go have a look around, and I'm pretty sure that all of the bricks will have either disappeared or will still be in place.
Something like a full circle thing going on there, then, isn't it? The bricks get donated.
Yes.
They are created into something, and then over time they may deteriorate, they may fall out, and they may become something else entirely.
Absolutely. I think it's a little bit like this. People have asked me also, do I glue them down? Do I cement it in, and so on? But I have thought about it, and you know, it's what I like is that it is indeed this kind of a circle. You have the moment when it's inside. You document it with a photo. You will forever have this photo unless your hard disk dies or something like this. But the bricks themselves, they stay there. They stay maybe in a collective story. You know, people would say, "Hey, yeah, there was this. Now it's a broken wall again." And then the bricks, they will get repurposed. They will be maybe sold by somebody, but maybe they will just go into a toy box straight away, and then they will be just repurposed, and they can be washed, and they will not decay so easily. So I think it's pretty safe.
Jan, thanks very much.
Thank you.